All right. All right. So we're joined from Des Moines, Iowa by my friend, the amazing Courageous Fire. We thank you so much for joining us today. We've got all of our seniors here at Velma Jackson High School with us. We've got my friend, Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Francisco, Renata Davis, Monica Williams, all in their classrooms watching. And we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools. So thank you so much for doing this for us today as we have our seniors that are getting ready to graduate from high school in just a few weeks or just a few months. It'll feel like weeks. But no matter what their path is when they graduate, this is a topic that can never be stressed enough because of all the new people they're going to have in their life, of all the new directions they're going to go. This is something that can literally save their life or save their children's life. So I'll let you have the floor and this wonderful presentation, which I know you've done with us before. So again, Courageous Fire.
Thank you so much, Coach Paget. I appreciate you. Really quick time check. What complete amount of time do we have today?
We've got about 35 minutes, 40 minutes. We're good.
Great. Awesome. Okay. Just resetting my timer. All right. So, yeah, I'm so excited to be with you guys. And man, for all of those teachers in your different classrooms, thank you so much for doing this. So I have a couple of organizations, Courageous Fire LLC and Courageous Access, and I'll have some information at the end regarding those organizations that you can take pictures of with your phones. But the thing is, I started this because I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And when I was in it, I didn't know that. He wasn't hitting me. And so I really made it my business, literally, to make sure that people understand the hidden types of domestic violence, teen dating violence, gender based violence, so that it can stop being hidden. And so teen dating violence is a big one. I want to make sure that it's clear what that looks like. And so, yeah, I don't want you to fall into that same trap that I did. And so I need you to know the things about teen dating violence that you don't know. And I found out this month that February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. I did not know
Wow,
that.
cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. So happy Black History Month, honoring Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, and man, like there's so much going on this month. So I'm going to jump into it. I know that you're going to have questions, and so I want to make sure we get time for questions at the end. So, what does the picture of teen dating violence look like? So, I don't know if you remember last year, coach, but last year it was 1 in 12. This year it's 1 in 10 youth that are victims of teen dating violence. So, in a 10-year study, teen dating violence was significantly higher among Black and multiracial youth than Hispanic, Asian, or white youth. In 2021, the numbers show like this: 16.1% of multiracial teens and 9.7% of Black teens who reported experiencing teen dating violence. So
Thanks.
let's pull out a couple of things that are super important to note right here. So, number one, the multiracial teens in this survey likely have many who also identify as Black. So that 9.7% that doesn't sound so bad probably is higher than that. So that's number one. Number two, this said these are teens who've reported it. So what about the teens who knew about it but didn't feel comfortable reporting? Those numbers aren't reflected here. And then what about the teens who did not know that they were experiencing it and couldn't report it? Those numbers are not represented here. And the reason why I'm bringing that out is because youth who experience teen dating violence have an increased likelihood of growing up and becoming adults like me who experience domestic violence. I don't want that to be any of you. I want to make some self care notes here. I hope that we understand that this is definitely, this whole presentation has a trigger warning for sure. There's not going to be any graphic videos or photos or anything with it, but the subject matter itself can be triggering. And honestly, anytime we hear something that sounds different than what we thought it was supposed to look like, can also be triggering for us. So, what does triggering feel like to you in your body so you can recognize it? And by the way, please take your phones out and take a picture of this slide in case you need this anywhere throughout this presentation. So triggering can feel like maybe increased heart rate. It can feel like your breathing is being sped up and getting really shallow. You can start to feel hot. You can start to sweat. You can start to feel nervous, agitated, or even irritated. Um, and then any other signs that if you're very, very self-aware and you know what you feel like when you're triggered, any of those things that you come to know about yourself can signal to you, hey, this subject matter, this circumstance is triggering me. What can you do? So you see those 4 bullet points there. Please use them in order. We tend to discount just breathing and what it does for regulating and grounding ourselves emotionally. And it is powerful. So literally just breathing in through the nose and really slowly and evenly out through the mouth can do wonders for regulating you. If that doesn't work, move to the next one. Because a lot of times when we get triggered, it's because something in what we've heard or experienced has tricked our bodies into believing you're back in that space that you felt unsafe in before. And so, literally, finding objects around the room, touching things, putting your hands on things, even if it's just your clothing, to remind you, wait a minute, I'm actually in this present space, and those things that were unsafe, undesirable, painful, they're not happening right now in this moment. If that doesn't work, move to the next one, which is actually repeating in your mind, I'm not in that situation anymore. I'm here in the present. I'm safe right now. The 4th bullet, you'll need Coach Paggett's or your other teacher's permission to be able to do. But I absolutely believe in putting distance between you and whatever it is that is triggering you so that you can be more vocal about getting yourself balanced and grounded again. Sometimes we just need a little privacy. We need to not have the stimulation of everybody else and the person's voice who's talking in the room and all of that happening to bring ourselves back down to balance. So if you need to move to number 4, please get permission and then please do so. Taking care of yourself matters so much. So, what in the world is teen dating violence? First of all, I need you to understand it is a pattern of behavior. So, it's not something that happens one time or one time now and then one time several months later and never happens again. You're looking for patterns. So it happens a lot. It happens after this same situation or type of conversation. It happens just before you're getting ready to do something that's important to you, and it seems to always happen. Those are patterns, okay? So you're looking for a pattern of behavior, and then you're looking for something that is used to gain or maintain power over the other person. And I need you to know that we're looking for the type of relationship we're looking for when we're speaking of teen dating violence is an intimate partner. And please don't miss that it doesn't have to be a current partner. It can be a former partner. And it could be a former partner from years, months, weeks ago. And let's be clear that it doesn't have to be a monogamous relationship. It doesn't have to be a committed relationship to be an intimate partner. So you might be thinking, oh, we're not even committed like that. We're not boyfriend and girlfriend, boyfriend and boyfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend. We just kick it sometimes. If by kick it you mean sexual intercourse, then that's still an intimate partner. Well, we just hit it sometimes. We just make each other happy sometimes. We just make each other feel good. All of those things I'm describing, those are intimate partners. If it's happening now, if it happened in the past, those both qualify as current or former intimate partners. So, patterns of behavior between those types of individuals in those types of relationships, and somebody's trying to gain power, somebody's trying to maintain power over the other person. And all of this is happening in the teen dating environment. Then, yes, you're talking about teen dating violence. I want you to know the most common types that take place. because again, I told you I had been in the relationship, I was married, and it was years somewhere around 13 before I even realized, wow, like this dude is legitimately abusing me. It's not unintentional, it is on purpose. So I need you to know the types that are common in teen dating violence. Number one is coercive control. It's really sneaky, so I want to be very descriptive in telling you about it. So coercive control is that type of thing that initiates normally as something that sounds like a suggestion, a recommendation, or a request. And all of those things sound very innocent. And they're supposed to so that they don't look like abuse. So this suggestion, recommendation, request comes, right? And you decide, it was just a request, it was a suggestion. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do it. Then what happens after that is the consequence because it wasn't a request, it was actually a demand cloaked in a request. You refused, and so now you get a punishment. So this punishment may not even look like a punishment to other people. It is designed specifically for that person being victimized, for it to be excruciating just for them. So then what happens the next time is it might be a request for that same thing, or it might just be a look. It might just be a shifting of weight. It might just be the way that they sit back in a chair or lean forward. And it lets you know, wait a minute, the last time they said this and I didn't do it, I got in trouble. So now they don't even ask you anymore. They just signal you. It is literally as dehumanizing as Pavlov's dogs. They don't even have to ring the bell anymore. They don't have to show you the food anymore for you to salivate or for you to respond with the behavior that they desire for you to have. So you've seen people on the other side as an outsider, you've all seen someone under coercive control because you've been in a group of people and all of you guys have been having a great time. Then they get a text or they get a phone call or somebody walks through your conversation and all of a sudden you watch that person shut down. Their eyes get dull. They stop interacting as actively as they were just a moment ago before that thing happened. They were going to go with the rest of the group to wherever you guys were headed. Now all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to go do that with you guys. I'll catch you the next time. Those are signs of someone who is dealing with coercive control. And I want you to know that coercive control, the research shows it is the most reliable indicator that a perpetrator is willing to commit homicide or homicide suicide, not them being physical with you, not sexual abuse, but coercive control. The second one is almost as common, and it used to be called revenge porn, but the name has been changed because revenge would put it as though someone has done something
Yep.
wrong and somebody else is trying to get back at them. Well, people who are being victimized in teen dating violence are not committing a crime, one's being committed against them. So they didn't
Correct.
do anything wrong to be having somebody get back at them. So it is now no longer called revenge porn. It is called image based sexual assault because that is what it is. So they literally are taking your image or your video, and whether it is done with your consent or not, now they're using it against you for some sort of behavior that they want. And it's most commonly used when you are realizing this is not a healthy relationship. I need to get out of here. And then that's their insurance to make sure that you don't leave. Stalking is very common in teen dating violence. And I want y'all to know that it's something that is not even typically described by you as stalking. Most of you call it, man, they just be tripping. and it's dismissed. And I need you to see these bullets and realize it shouldn't be dismissed. Look at the attempted homicide, completed homicide statistics. 85% of victims who were stalked, that person attempted homicide against them. 76% of victims who were stalked, the homicide was successful. 76%. And 91% of victims who were physically abused were also stalked. Stalking is serious, you guys. And it is a very good indicator that that person is willing to move all the way to homicide. So what does it look like? They could text when they know that you don't want them to. Same thing with phone calls. What about those unwanted gifts? Right? The stuff that keeps saying you're my possession that you don't want, that they keep sending. They follow you around. And then they start showing up in places that they know you're going to be, or even worse yet, they start using technology to track where you're going to be. All of that is stalking, and all of that is a form of teen dating violence. What about financial abuse? Can financial abuse show up in teen dating violence? Absolutely, y'all. So, financial abuse looks like someone who is either keeping you from gaining money or keeping you from keeping your money. So, what can that look like? Have you had that person that just always shows up at your job, whether they do it in person or they text you, and you keep getting in trouble with your boss and you keep either losing jobs or getting demoted or all losing shifts or your time gets shortened? Guess what? That's impacting your ability to earn money or keep assets. That's financial abuse. Do you guys share money? Maybe they have a debit card on your account. Maybe you guys have an account together and they keep forgetting that you keep telling them don't spend this much because that's allocated to this, that, and the other. And they keep forgetting and doing it anyway. That's financial abuse because you can't build up or stabilize your financial reserves because they keep putting those hits on it every time you turn around. There are things you can do to keep yourself out of that situation. I know that we are sometimes so free with the things that we do for the people that we care about. I get that. But as teens, there's no reason why somebody needs your PIN. There's no reason why they need to use your card. There's no reason why they need to know your password. There's no reason why they need a card on your account. And there is no reason why you guys need to share accounts at all. And if you're doing that right now today, guess what you can do? You literally can go, I'm going to start a separate account and I'm just not going to say anything. There you go. And then, yeah, you can just not put any money in the shared account. There's more that we're going to talk about before we wrap things up so that you
And
can
I wanted
safely get out of
I wanted
that.
to think of the financial part. As kids move into young adults, they may find themselves falling in love with somebody. I had a
Yep.
friend who was in a horrible marriage, or she got divorced, and then because she was so willing to get out of that bad marriage, she started living with this guy who was treating
Mhm.
her horrible. And I was like, "Well, why don't you leave? You have family here." And she goes, "Well, he pays all my bills."
Yep.
So, I mean,
Yep.
don't fall into the trap of somebody offering you money and then you're going to be unhappy just because you had that financial dependence on another human.
Absolutely. The last one is choking. I didn't know about this until we started doing youth healthy relationships in Courageous Access, the nonprofit. And the teens that were in the program were like, Miss Courageous, um, you hear it all the time in school. I know he loves me because he chokes me. Or I don't feel like he loves me because he doesn't choke me. Coach Paget asked the class, is this still a thing?
They're saying no.
Oh,
Yeah.
so glad. Okay. Maybe
Only
it's
one
not that
person
way in
said it is.
Mississippi.
Only one
Okay.
person said it is.
So,
The rest are like, what?
oh, okay. Well, I had to put it in there because choking can happen and the person's like, well, I'm okay. I didn't lose consciousness. I didn't black out. I'm okay. There's no bruises, blah, blah, blah. Blood vessels in the neck can partially tear or clot, and this can result in a stroke. And brain damage or even death may happen within minutes, but can sometimes occur weeks or months later. So choking, even if that's something that you're like, oh, we do that sexually and it's by consent, stop doing that because that can lead to serious physical problems that you had no idea you were inviting when you moved in that direction. Um, what is the trauma impact of all of this? So our bodies are designed to release cortisol. We've heard of fight or flight. We all know about that type of a thing. So the hormone cortisol, when it sees danger for you, and it's like, nope, we got to preserve you, then it raises the level of cortisol so that your body can make quick responses. But the body does not intend for that cortisol to remain at a heightened state. When you are being victimized, your body knows that's constant danger. So guess what? That cortisol stays all the way up here. Heightened cortisol, unreleased and unlowered, becomes trauma that attacks the body. This unprocessed, unresolved trauma can show up in several ways, but I want you to think about people that you may have seen with these three things going on. Combination, some of them, whatever. Man, she just always got an attitude. Does she? Or is she dealing with the trauma impact of being a victim of teen dating violence? Well, dang, every time she talks or he talks, they just always feel like everything's doomed. They're never going to have a good life. They're not going to pass this test. They're not going to graduate. God, I can't even be around them. They're just so negative. Maybe that constant pessimism is that mindset shift that makes them believe nothing's ever going to be good because why would they think it would be? In teen dating violence, nothing is ever good and it doesn't get better. The worst thing that you'll see is somebody that always seems to be sick with something that never seems to have a diagnosis. They miss a lot of school, they miss a lot of things, and they always seem to be talking about how they don't feel good. And you're like, well, if they were really sick, then they'd have something, they'd have some medication they were taking. No, because it's hard to pin down what's going on with their body because their doctor probably does not think of a connection to that and teen dating violence. I want you to know really quickly about the 8-stage homicide timeline that Dr. Jane Monckton Smith out of the United Kingdom did. She did research and she did over 400 interviews. She did them with people who attempted to do homicide or suicide or actually were successful with that with victims. She did interviews with victims who escaped, and she did interviews with family members of people who did not escape homicide attempts on their lives. And this homicide timeline holds up. So I want you to know that if we understand what stage you're in, if you can understand what stage you're or someone else is in, then you know how to disrupt that with a safety plan that's going to be on this next slide. Please take a picture. Please take a picture of this presentation slide. So number one, this is something that you can do before you get in a relationship, y'all. This is something you can find out and save yourself from a violent relationship. Were they controlling or stalking before you? Before you. So please don't be asking questions that are going to put you in an unsafe position. If the person is abusive, you don't want to tip your hand that that's what you're trying to find out. So be discreet. People talk about prior relationships, and if they don't, you bring it up. These were what my prior relationships were like. What about you? What were you like? How do you respond to relationships? What do you like? And so maybe they're like, oh man, this person cheated on me. Really? So what did you do? Like, that's awful, right? Because you're trying to draw out how they responded. If they start talking about, yeah, man, I start tracking them because you ain't gonna be just stepping out on me. Okay, they're stalking, right? That's stalking. So that lets you know, I'm not getting into it with this person. Yeah, man, I didn't like the way they were dressing. So I told them anybody that's going to be with me got to look like this and they got to go these places and they got to do these things. They're controlling, right? They're giving you signals that they did it already that tells you they're already in stage one before they ever get into any relationships with anybody. They're already in stage one of the homicide timeline. Don't commit to them. Don't tell them why, but don't commit to them. What's stage number two? Let's say they passed that. Nothing's going on in their past. But then they want to rush into everything. Oh, now we're a couple. Great. I want you to wear my jersey. I want you to wear this necklace that has my name on it. I want you to wear my colors. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. I want you to be my girl. I want you to be my guy. I don't want us to be with nobody else. Wait a minute. Why are we rushing? Because ownership, possession of you means control of you. Okay. That's the next stage, stage two. Stage three, if you've ever met someone or if you yourself are in that right now, you're probably in stage three. You are now living under their code. What is it? Their code of loyalty, their code of jealousy, and you have to submit to when they're jealous, you have to respond in these ways to make them feel better. That's what violence is. That's what a violent relationship looks like. You live under the code they dictate. Okay. But at some point in every abusive relationship, stage four happens. And stages four and five are kind of together. Stage four is the trigger, and stage five is their response. So let's talk about that. The trigger is that something happens that threatens whether or not they're going to be able to keep their control over their victim. Maybe you say to them, you know, I don't think this is working out, right? So you're threatening to separate from them. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something like you start to not feel well and they don't like the attention that you're not giving them anymore because now you're paying attention to yourself. Maybe there's a mental health issue going on. Maybe you get a new friend and you start spending more time with this friend than you do with them. All of those factors are threats to their current power. So now they escalate. That's stage five. And usually they increase their attempts to regain control. Well, you know what, man, if you're going to start doing that, you know, I got these suicidal ideations and I might just have to hurt myself because, like, I just can't be without you. You know how we are. Like, I need you with me. So, like, you know, I know you don't want that to be on your head. So, you know, we need to lock us down. You know, we need to get back to where we were. That is an attempt to try to regain that control because they know you care about them and you don't want to see any harm come to them. And you're willing to go back to stage three. You know what? That's all right. I don't have to spend time with her like I was. It's just you and me, babe. I'll just tell my friend that, you know, that we got some special things in our relationship that I have to attend to, and they'll understand. If they're not able to get you back to stage three, then stage six happens. And that is very dangerous because that is where they decide what they're going to do because they're losing control. And usually one of two things happen. Either they go, man, this relationship is too much trouble. I'm going to drop this one and I'm going to find me a new one that doesn't take all that work. And of course, yeah, I always feel bad for the next person. You know, my ex-husband, who was very violent toward me, is now remarried. I feel sorry for her, but I am relieved for me because that gives him something else to do instead of be worried about me. If they do not switch to another partner, unfortunately, they usually go to stage six, seven rather. They start actively planning, and this is not cliche. And I need for movies and TV shows to stop making it seem like nobody ever does this and they're being dramatic. It's not dramatic. If I can't have you, no one else will either. And they start planning the homicide or the homicide suicide. And again, you saw those statistics on an earlier slide. It happens way more often than people give it credit for. And many times, The person is not physically violent before they get to stage 7, believe
Yeah,
it or
I'm
not.
glad you mentioned that. We had two of those recently in the news here in the Jackson area, and both of them it was two murder suicides with married couples, and both times they said there was no history of physical violence on either one, and that was just in the last 2 months.
Exactly. And I wish in this country that our law enforcement would get out of the 1970s and stop saying, when was the last incident of violence, as though that is the only indicator of imminent danger. It is not. It is not. Please, if you haven't done it yet, before I advance to the next slide, please take a picture of this slide. On my YouTube channel, there's a 16-minute video, and I used a current day couple to demonstrate this timeline because it always is easier if you have a demonstration. I got about 29 seconds in my 30 minutes, so I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as I can. How do you know whether or not you or someone else is dealing with teen dating violence? The screening for TDV and domestic violence are the same. The best one is these 4 questions. Why? Because each yes counts as 1 point, and 1 point equals a positive screening. And these questions make way more sense than asking somebody, do you feel safe at home? Nobody really knows what that question means, and you may have been asked that question and it didn't mean anything to you. It didn't mean anything to me. I was asked that several times before the 13-year mark came up, and it didn't mean anything to me either. So, safety first, always make sure that the person being screened is alone, that they cannot be overheard during their screening, and that you guys' conversation is not being monitored or tracked. Okay? Number 1, has a current or former intimate partner ever humiliated you? Guess what? It's not detailed. It's not sometimes, always, never, rarely, often. It's yes or no. If the answer is yes, positive. That's the end of the screening. If you want to advance to number 2 and 3 and 4 to see, you can. Number 2 is, has your current or former intimate partner ever made you afraid? Guess what? Somebody would have had me way back then on number 1. He humiliated me whenever he got good and ready. And he told me all the time that he was over 300 pounds and over 6'1", and that he was good at martial arts. He told me that all the time. And he told me stories after stories after stories about all the people in his past he had choked unconscious. I was afraid of him, but I didn't put that together until I saw this screening. So if somebody had asked me that, they would have had me right there. Number 3, rape. I need to explain that because rape is not just unconsensual sex. It is also sexual coercion, reproductive coercion. Do they sabotage or force reproductive contraceptives? Do they coerce or force rape, sex, or certain sexual acts that they know you don't like and are not comfortable with? All of those fall under rape. And if the answer to any of those is yes, then that one is yes. And then number 4 is, has your partner, current or former, ever kicked, hit, slapped, punched, or choked you? If the answer is yes, it counts as a point. 1 point equals a positive screening, and they need help. Where do you get it? 24/7. Please take a picture of this screen because help is available 24/7. You can text love is, all caps, all one word, to 22522 to get assistance. You can go to loveisrespect.org to get assistance. And if you need a safety plan, finding out how to safely exit that violent relationship, their partner, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, if you go to their website at thehotline.org and you type in their search engine, create a safety plan, one will come up on the screen that you can fill out yourself, and it will email it to you, and you can send that to somebody that you trust, and they can help you implement that thing. Help is available. February, again, is Teenage Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and if you're concerned about your relationship or have questions about dating in general, Love is Respect is here for you 24/7. What are your questions?
Well, first of all, it's just I'm so glad that you took the time for us today, and and I do have a couple questions from the kids, and I told them I wouldn't share their name just for
Perfect.
secrecy's sake, but
Yes.
and we got about 5 minutes. But one thing I
Okay.
did want to hit on, we have a lot of kids that are going to be on college campuses next year. They're going to meet a
Oh,
lot of new
yeah.
people. They're going to meet a
Yep.
lot of people that may seem too good to be true. It's a new
Yep.
environment, and we
Yep.
encourage all of them to enjoy their college experience. But being safe on a college campus has never been a greater risk than it is now. So when you meet
Absolutely.
these new people, like you said, but until you really have spent a lot of time with somebody, make sure you're never alone with that person.
That's right.
Know where the call boxes are on campus. They have them now more than ever. Have
Pair
people know
up,
where you
pair
are.
up, pair up, pair up. You might feel like you want to be grown and you want your parents not to bother you, but if you trust your parents, you let them track your location, buddy.
Yeah, and then one other thing, and they think I'm joking about this, but I'm dead serious. And, me being an Uber driver here in Jackson, I pick up college
Ah,
students all the time that say, "Look, they're using drugs in there. I don't want something bad to happen. Just get me out of here." And, I always say, I think your parents would be pretty glad that you rode with somebody sober, that wasn't abusive and got home, than stayed in a situation because you felt pressured because of a relationship. So learn how to use the
absolutely.
rideshare services. Get yourself out of bad situations.
Yep. And have your safe word with whoever that is. You text that word, they don't ask no questions. They just show up and get you.
All right, well, I do have a question from a student here, and she asked,
Yeah.
sometimes I catch myself trying to manipulate other people to get my way. I'm trying to learn how to stop. How do you suggest I do this?
Oh my gosh. Good for you. So yeah. So first of all, give yourself a little bit of credit and realize that you are still at the developmental stage. That doesn't stop until you're 25 or 26. Realize that that is a part of moving from dependent to independent, right? That you want to know actions and consequences. What does that look like? What I need you to remember when you're saying, I want to quit, ask yourself, if this was turned on me, how would I feel, right? Because we love ourselves. There is a self preservation mechanism in all of us. And so ask yourself, if this was turned on me, would it hurt me? Would I feel bad? And what long term impact would it have? And every time you do that, govern yourself as though it's happening to you or would happen to you, and then make your decisions based on that.
All right, I got time for one more. They ask, when you left your husband, how long did it take you to heal?
Uh, it took me probably a good 3 years after the divorce was final. So it was probably a good 5 years after he left, because he left. Um, but I don't know that the healing is ever like a destination. Like I got to this place because it's been like 8 years now since he's left the house, and like, I don't know, 5.5 years since the divorce was final. But I don't know that healing is a destination, it's a journey. I feel like I reach higher levels of empowerment and self awareness every year and with every new thing. So don't be looking for a destination, just be looking for a new level of empowerment.
Absolutely. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for doing this for us again. It's just, again, like I said at the beginning, this is a topic that can never be talked about enough. And even though it's uncomfortable sometimes, like we said, this is something that could literally save someone's life or save their children's life. So being aware of this, knowing where to seek help, knowing how to recognize it is literally so important as these kids get ready to move into adulthood. And that you have tons of resources on your website, courageousfire.com. Courageous Fire on YouTube. You've got great shorts. You've got great clips of you speaking. Really, really good stuff. And that's another thing I say. Put positive things in your life. Put positive things in your life. Find things that can help you and find things that can keep you safe. But we are so grateful for the time you made for us today. My friend Courageous Fire, courageousfire.com, all the way from Des Moines, Iowa. We thank you so much for sharing this important message with us today.
Thanks, Coach Paget. Have a great rest of your day, guys.
I talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye bye.